The plant bank is really about whole plant research. So we're not only just storing seed, but we're also storing various other bits of plants depending on the species. Some species really don't like being stored as seed, and we require things like tissue culture and specialist preservation of the plant parts. This really is a world-class facility. It's doing research which is world-class in nature, and it has importance right across the globe. It's not just about doing things that are important for a local area or New South Wales. It's research that's really relevant to the whole world. This building, it's really is an iconic building. The architecture is fabulous, but we've got some fantastic interactive displays and interpretation that are appropriate for school kids, for the general public, anybody with an interest in this sort of area and plants and conservation. So it's fabulous from that perspective. That plants are important. It's really about re-emphasising the importance that plants play in their lives, in their everyday life, not only as food plants, fibre plants, but also plants support so many other aspects of their environment and in the way in which we interact with the environment and with ecosystems.
It is important to make sure that we preserve our plant species for the future, and certainly when we know we've got 25,000 native plants, many of them endangered, this is a critical piece of infrastructure, but it's also about our young scientists hopefully learning. We've got school children here who will come in, be inspired by what's going on, and hopefully take up scientific... no, that doesn't sound right, sorry. We've got young scientists here today, hopefully in the making, watching our scientists at work, learning about seed banks, learning about preservation and making sure that our flora is preserved for the future, because that is vital. We don't know what our food uses might be in the future, what our fibre needs might be, and so this is a critical piece of infrastructure. What the Australian community can see by coming here, and certainly our young school children, is a project that is vitally important for our future, preserving our plant species, particularly those that are endangered, and our seeds for the future, and really understanding what's involved with the cryogenic freezing, seeing scientists at work and exploring and understanding our flora in the most amazing Australian landscape in the Botanic Garden here at Mount Annan.
Well, we've been a long-term partner of the Royal Botanic Gardens for over 15 years, and in fact we've just renewed our sponsorship of the Botanic Gardens, and so we are the principal conservation sponsor, and we provide financial assistance, but also importantly our staff get an opportunity to see the important issues around sustainability, and as our advocacies globally, HSBC is focused on education and also on sustainability and the environment. For that very reason, because we think the environment as one of our two main advocacies, including education, the environment is critical to long-term sustainability of economies, of societies, and so that's why we put it as one of our key advocacies for the group worldwide.
Sure, Carla. I believe this is an amazing building. Architecturally, it's got some stunning features, not least of all its reflective stainless steel facade. But it's been also designed as a very sustainable building. It's predominantly made of concrete, stainless steel and glass, and that's about its interface with the critically endangered plant community next door, the Cumberland Plain Woodland, which is a fire protection mechanism. So there's nothing combustible. It's also low maintenance. It's got a thermal labyrinth which helps cool the air before it reaches our chiller plants and keeps us cooler. We've got opening windows, unlike standard office buildings that are all locked up. We've got an amazing seed vault on the other side of the building, which is built with a concrete cube around it, with 4 hours of fire protection to collect the core investment in side, and we've got some additional resources. So we have storage environments at 4, -18, and as low as -196 degrees to store our conservation collections. Absolutely. So as I just mentioned, the concrete cube around that seed vault stores nearly 100 million seeds, nearly a fifth of Australia's flora. It's quite a simple technique. The vault has 2 parts to it. A seed drying room where we dry down the seed and take out the moisture content. We do a lot of research and other things in between and cleaning, but ultimately we packet that seed and then we store it in a foil envelope in either our 4 or -18 degrees for short-term storage, or as long as a couple of hundred years or several thousand, depending on the longevity of the seed. Sure, well that's probably a big call, but I'd like to think that it's one of the most open science facilities to the public. It's clear from the moment you step inside that you have complete access to all our science laboratories through glass windows. The public can come inside and do behind the scenes tours if they book in, or a volunteer guide. And I'd like to think that we can use this facility when our visitors come through to inspire them about plants and engage with the importance of plants in their day-to-day lives.
Absolutely, Carla. I would suggest that the people who are going to be coming to this garden, they will notice that this is the first structure that they see on site. And they'll stop and they'll go, wow, what is that? They'll be so impressed with the stainless steel facade, the reflections of the trees, and they'll just have to stop and investigate. When they come inside, they will look around and just be amazed at what they see, because what we show here in terms of plants, it's not showcased anywhere else, I have to tell you. We'll have bus tour groups, I suspect. We'll have lots of school kids coming in from local schools. We will have so many interest groups wanting to come and share the experience of visiting Plant Bank. And what's more important is that once they've been to this place, they will actually understand what's outside much, much better. And we're hoping that we will actually be able to encourage people to become more involved in plants, plant conservation, and as I said, really understand what the Trust is all about. Well, years ago, I remember when I was studying, I decided I wanted to study tissue culture. And the tissue culture lab, people walk past it and go, oh, what are those little jars and what are those little sprigs of plants growing in there? And when you explain to them what they're growing in and the fact that they are tiny, tiny pieces of tissue that have been placed in a growing medium, under lights in an incubation unit, they suddenly go, how is it that you can grow plants that way? It's magic. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what this plant bank is all about, showcasing magic.
Well, the diversity wall is a wall of, it's like a cabinet of curiosities. It features some of our historical items from a museum that was put together by the Botanic Gardens starting in about the 1870s. So there's items of interest from all around the world. So back in Victorian times, I was really interested in collecting plants and showing how plants were important in different cultures and their economic values. Now we've brought some of those collections that have been sitting in a storeroom back into the light of day, because we think these are the most fantastic items. There's a cocoa de mer. It's the world's largest seed. It's literally, this size, and it's been sitting in a cupboard for all that time. But we've also put that alongside some of the smallest seeds in the world, the orchid species, which you need to see with a microscope. So we're showing the huge diversity of seeds. There's seeds there of all the commonly grown species, but we have a section called variation where we look at seeds of the common bean. And there's so much variation in the common bean that people probably don't appreciate, because we in the supermarkets we get one type of bean, but there's literally thousands of different types of beans that have been developed and are still used all around the world. They're all one species. There's the seeds that we're put on display are different colours. They're different. They're brown. They're white. They're speckled, and those seeds represent the amazing diversity that's contained just within one species. One of the things that we wanted to highlight with the diversity wall is how much diversity there is, but in particular how easy it is to lose diversity. And the thing that we need to preserve is the diversity of species, because diversity is what makes our ecosystems and our bushland and even the food that we eat. It keeps the planet healthy. It keeps us healthy. So we've got to do as much as we possibly can to keep our planet diverse and healthy. Okay, so we've got some very scientific topics where we talk about how many species there are in the world, what types of species. The thing that might surprise people is how few animals there are, vertebrate species there are compared to how many insects there are in the world. We've got a pie chart that shows that there's a sliver of how many vertebrate animals, like we're vertebrate animals, we're humans. And then a lot of the rest of the pie chart is just insects. There's some that's plants and other types of, and so that's a very high-end science part of of the diversity wall. And then we've got a lot of things for kids, things that will engage children about how plants are dispersed, the different types of ways that seeds are dispersed. So seeds that have fruit, inside fruit that hook on to animals. So they've got these great big hooks that grab onto the sides, the flanks of animals, or other seeds that are blown on the wind. And we've also got one drawer which I think will be very popular. It's called scats, and we've got animal scats, animal poos, animal feces. We show the different sorts of scats that animals make, and we also talk about what's in them and how quite often there's a lot of seeds and plant material that's in those, and that's quite often how many plant species are dispersed, and their seeds are dispersed over very wide distances by animals. So look, there's lots to enjoy in the diversity wall. There's 44 different types of topics. There's books that talk about the Australian floral emblems, the use of plants as medicines. There's also sections that talk about DNA and how that contributes to the diversity of our planet. And then there's other ones that talk about, they're quite whimsical, and they talk about how harking back to the olden days, if you like, of plant collections. We've got a gentleman plant collector, the Reverend W.W. Watts, who was a collector during Victorian times. He made many of the collections that are still in our herbarium collections. He collected fern species. And he went around in his old motor car around New South Wales and Victoria collecting fern species, and he had a hat, and he had a thing called a vasculum, which he stored his plant collections in. And we have one of those vasculums on display, and an old-fashioned brass field microscope that he might have used to look at his ferns to make sure that he got the species that he was interested in collecting, and an old plant press. So we go backwards and forwards in time. We look at what our aims are in PlantBank and what the global aims are for preserving plant species. So we talk about our goals, and one of the most poignant and I think slightly disturbing ones that we displays that we have is where there's a series of brass rods, and you pull them up and you find that there's the name of an extinct plant species on that rod. And when you put it down, it looks like a gravestone. And so it's a memorial to all the plant species that we are known to have lost in New South Wales over the last 200 years. And we've got a few more grave markers that are unnamed at the back of the display, just because we hope that people will recognise that unless we do something, we're going to continue to lose more species. So we actually want to halt plant species loss.